Hey guys, Lily Jean Berry back for Wall of Sound, and I'm so stoked to have Lzzy and Joe here from Halestorm. How are you going, guys?
Hello.
It's going great. We can't believe it's finally here. We're finally coming to your side of the globe to do
Yes.
It's
rock
so
shows.
insane. Like,
You believe
I mean, I know we've been like a pandemic and a record from you guys, and even then, you hadn't had a record in 4 years before that point.
Yeah.
So it's been a very long time between visits. Um, yeah, what does Australia mean to you? Like coming out to play for us?
Oh my gosh. Well, rock is definitely a lifestyle
Yeah.
with you
Australian
Aussies.
rock fans are
They're
awesome.
the best, and we've been missing that. We've gotten into a lot of trouble with the locals. I remember the last time that we were there, we ended up pub crawling with a bunch of people that we had just randomly met, and yeah, it was.
That's just Australian
They were trying
culture.
to teach me how to roll a cigarette, that kind of thing. It was like we gotta go, it's like end up 4 in the morning, like we gotta go, we have like a show. But so love you guys. There's debauchery, there's rock and roll, everyone's so incredibly kind.
Love it.
It's
Oh, that warms my absolute heart. Thank you so much. We definitely have a wild culture here down under, but I like to think, especially someone who's been to shows, kind of all around the world and seen lots of different bands, like there's a certain energy that we bring here and a certain level of passion. And I've definitely noticed that's elevated, especially with international acts coming back down under since we didn't have it for so long. When I spoke to you, Lzzy, sort of about a year ago, it was just before the record came out, we were talking through some of the songs you were excited to play live, and at that point you'd really only done a couple of little sort of sneaky previews of some of them that you like to
Yeah.
sneak to fans beforehand. How has the reception been to being able to play these songs live off this latest record and have them all sung back to you now that everyone's had them in their hands for so long?
Oh, it's amazing. It's so incredibly fulfilling because what I was picturing in my mind, the response to each of these songs while we were recording them, what I was picturing in my mind ended up being correct. Because we'll pull out songs like the steeple, and every, exactly when everyone's going to sing. We have fans that show up at our shows with the, like, not just the steeple, but like all sorts of lines from the album tattooed on their arms.
Oh my
It's
God.
just it's so amazing, and it's beautiful because it made me realize that I was not alone in any of the feelings that I was having while writing this record. And and then you get all of these stories back about how these songs really helped somebody else get through something, or you're saying the words that maybe they didn't know how to put together in their head. And
Yeah.
it's so beautiful, it really is. And man, songs are fun to play. So
Yeah. The response has been amazing live. It's just fun. Good crowds.
yeah.
I remember when we were chatting and going through Back from the Dead, I honestly wanted to talk through like every sort of single song. And I think I asked you like how do you pick like what you're gonna play? Because of course you want to play every single one live. How have you been able to, pick the right ones and put a set list together of, four records previous plus everything you want to play from the new one?
Well, honestly, we switch the setup every night, and we put it together like how long before the
Yeah, a
show?
few
A
hours
few hours before the
beforehand.
show. And so yeah, like you have to kind of keep it interesting because we're so lucky to be a band that has all this material, and you don't really want to leave anything out.
Yeah.
Uh, and then every now and then you kind of want to throw something in that maybe you haven't, done in a while, that kind
Oh,
of
I
thing.
love that.
And the set, they keep evolving. Like we just did
Yep.
6, 7 weeks in Europe, and by the time we got to the end of that, it was it was completely we had worked out different parts, new moments, new intro. I mean, everything, it was just changing. And as you gauge your reaction and see where the flow is,
Yep.
and then of course you find the perfect flow, and you're like, well, we can't do the same set.
Yeah.
We literally can't do the same set list over and over because we just can't do that. It would drive us nuts. We have to surprise ourselves and make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's such a nice change. A lot of acts will get their sort of you know, this is the performance, this is how it's going to kind of go every night. It's such a refreshing thing to hear that you're like, no, we're going to get together and sort of change it each from day to day.
Oh yeah, and we do that like in a selfish way too, because like you said, because that's what we get off on. But also there's this strange phenomenon with our fans, that there are so many people all around the world that will come to like 8 shows in a row, and so you don't want to give them the same set they just heard yesterday,
Yeah.
So it's like, and a lot of times we'll end up taking requests, or if somebody's like, coming to see us, and hey man, I'm bringing my cousin to come see you for the first time. Their favorite song is whatever, like, can you put that in? So we'll end up throwing it in for them and try to make people stay.
Is there favorites? Is there favorites from the new one that you're like, no, I'm still going to play this every night, no matter what happens?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we end up doing.
We do Bombshell a lot.
That's Bombshell fun. A lot.
She's got so much power. She's just ripping.
We definitely do Back from the Dead and Steeple a lot.
Yeah.
You have to Steeple. Yeah. That song stuck in my mind for so long after I listened to the record. I'd find myself like, I don't know, just doing something really mundane like dishes, and I've just got the Steeple like stuck in my head. And this is just, it's gonna live rent free in my brain forever.
But the worst plague is when it's like me that has Steeple in my head, because if we end up ending the set with it, I'm like taking off my makeup after the show backstage, and I'm like and I'm like, get out of my head, stop it, I can't have my own song stuck in my head. That's just terrible.
I wanted to touch on around the same time as the album coming out, you had this really new venture for you guys, which was your graphic novel Manor. There was elevated characters of yourself in the graphic novel. Have you been able to take any elements from, I guess, them or the graphic novel in general and put that into the live performance or the live show?
Oh wow. I think, and that's funny because like that was supposed to come out in October. We're still, but everything is done. The illustration is done. The story is done. I cried a little at the end. It's great. But the funniest thing about these characters is that even though they're like amplified versions of ourselves, it's kind of true.
Yeah,
like it's really like almost like I really am that way. Weird, and
I know.
Yeah, I know. Like even the bad stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's not just in the story. That happens. Maybe I gotta work on that. No. But
therapy.
But, yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. I wasn't prepared for this therapy.
We have to talk about this. Yeah. I mean, I think that for myself, seeing something like that develop and seeing this kind of big version of you, I feel like I definitely carry a little bit of that on stage with me now, because that was a different perspective. It's so I don't know, I feel like I like being an even more amplified version of myself on stage because of that journey. So
I still to this day, after having the record for nearly a year and chatting about it so long ago now, like Bright Side to me is just like, it's just such a beautiful standout track in the sense that, I know that this album was started being written before the pandemic, and then you had the pandemic, and like, I guess going through the darkness of, having everything taken away from us and then returning to sort of live music. How has it changed your live performance at all?
I think that we appreciate it even more.
Yeah.
And I don't know about
you don't take it for granted, and you go out there and you really stop and smell the roses, like because when you get out there, it's like one of the great, that's why we love doing it so much, one of the great feelings. You're in front of people, and like we don't use a click track or tracks, or
nobody's miming.
We improv a lot. So you're out there, you're truly living in it's like the most in the moment living I've ever found that I can do. And you jump off the cliff and fly, and that gets taken away, and you're like, that's like our drug of choice, so like we had a lot of withdrawal.
And we found out
like it.
You can't really fill that hole with anything.
Yeah.
We tried. That didn't work out.
The hole can only be stuffed with one thing.
Yeah, that's
as they say.
As they do they say that?
One thing. Okay. No, but you don't take it for granted, and it's really such a great feeling, and I love it.
And that sentiment and that feeling, you know, obviously we're in it and it exudes from us, but we see that from the concert goers too. They're just so incredibly happy to be there. It's not just, oh, you know, it's a Friday night, I'll go see a band, or like nobody is out there taking that spot for granted either. So we're all just celebrating. And also I think that with us, we're always like, we're like the hypercritical ones of ourselves, you know. It's like, so we'll have like powwows after the show and we're like, oh, you fucked up there and you did that, but it's not like intense like it was before. Like we're all just like, oh, whatever, we made a mistake, but look, we're at a show. This is awesome.
We'll do it again tomorrow.
We'll do it again tomorrow.
You're playing some pretty iconic venues here in Australia, like the Enmore Theatre, Tivoli, and the Forum. I don't know if you've ever played them before, but all of them have this beautiful, like, old school kind of vintage feel when you're in them. And then I always love going to these incredibly gorgeously 100-year-old venues, and then you get in there and you just hear this like heavy rock and roll, and it's just like, it's such a gorgeous juxtaposition when like there's gold awnings in the bathrooms and then you're like rocking out with guitars. I actually really wanted to touch on the that you're bringing out Theory, Canadian rockers. So how have you guys played together before? Like, are you excited to bring them out? Have you got a relationship? Like, talk to me about that a little bit.
We have such a colorful history with those guys.
We've known those guys over like 15 years, right?
Hell yeah.
Right, signed to a label in 05. Like that was some of the first like one-offs. We'd travel to Ohio from Pennsylvania and open up for them at this little bar, you know. And we made the first record and they were living in the same apartment complex as us. So
oh my gosh.
We were getting into trouble. We bought like those stink bombs and we're like bombing parties. Other people's parties on their assholes. Oh my gosh. I think there's video somewhere.
No, there's no video.
Yeah. you can probably scour through the internet and find, you know, and also they were really into Thin Lizzy at the time. So like, remember we had this drinking game there. Yeah. Thin Lizzy has a song called Dedication. And he says dedication like 1,500 times in the song. And so every time as he said dedication, we'd have to do a show. Yep, nope. We've gotten into a lot of trouble with those boys. And then they ended up taking us out on some of our first tours too.
We've done multiple tours.
We went overseas with them a bunch. And so we're really looking forward to reuniting and continuing the shenanigans.
To go full circle to like right back at the start of the interview, you're like talking about the culture in Australia and how you end up on these bar crawls and the debauchery that we have just as a part of our everyday. I think everyone's kind of in for a pretty good time.
Oh yeah. It's gonna be amazing.
It's gonna go too fast. I'm so bummed it's only 3 shows and we don't even get time to like hang out, you know, which sucks. I hate that, but next time
we'll find ways.
Okay, because we will, like, I can almost speak pretty confidently on behalf of most Australians that we're going to make those couple of days like absolutely epic for you guys.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait.
We know that, and yeah, it's just going to be such an elevated show, and it's going to be wonderful. I can't wait. I'm so glad it's finally here, because I remember when it was rescheduled and it was like months and months ago. I'm just like, oh my god, it's so far away. I can't wait to go. So as soon as we get on that plane, I'm like, woo!
New Zealand is only like what, a couple of days away. We've got Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of February. You guys, Wall of Sound community, it's only a couple of days away. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I am so excited to finally see the return of this band and get out to this show and have an absolutely epic evening. So pick up a ticket, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. You guys, thank you so much for the chat, and I'm super excited to see you here.
Thanks, Lili.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so great to see you again, and yeah, man, we're gonna do it. Can't wait to see
you live very soon.